Google Search Console. Submitted URL has crawl issue. How do we fix this error? And what does it mean? Is it important? Should we fix it? How do we fix it? I'm going to explain to you various different ways for you to fix this problem. Now, what we're seeing on the screen right now is Google Search Console user interface for a particular web property for my valued client, right? But I'm going to show you a different one as well so that you can make the distinction. Here we're looking at a completely different website having issues. Here it says submitted URL has crawl issue under index coverage reports. There's an error here. And here it's a different one, right? So now, how do we fix this problem? Submitted URL has crawl issue. Let's press on this and see what happens. Now, Rankya has made videos covering this particular topic, but some of the comments saying, okay, I can't see the URL. I can't even fix it. But, you know, if you're seeing something like this, and then there is no examples for you to actually fix, you can basically ignore submitted URL has crawl issue report. Why? Because the red bars here gives us an idea as to the date range that Google has seen a URL from your website. And it also tells us how many pages were affected. Here in this example, it's saying affected pages 2, but I can't see which pages. That means right now I don't even have to worry about this. You think it like it's just part of running a website. And right now Google is actually not having any problems for me to fix. Even though there is submitted URL has crawl issue warning here. Validation, I can't validate it because there is nothing to fix. It's already fixed itself, so to speak, okay? Now, there are many reasons as to why why Googlebot may be picking these URLs up. Okay, so the easiest way is to check the URL from the front end, which we will cover in a second as well, okay? So if you're seeing anything like this in Google Search Console report for submitted URL has crawl issue, then you can ignore it. But if you say, no, I want to know why or which URLs, then we'll touch base with them in a moment, okay? So now we're looking at a different web property having the same problem. Here it says submitted URL has crawl issue. Let's press on this because I've actually started the validation, but let's explore how to fix it. Let's imagine that you haven't started the validation. First thing to do is go and actually visit the URL from the front end. Okay? Now, if you're seeing the URL here, that means Google should also be able to see it, correct? But if it's having problem, then the question mark arises as to why that is. Why is that? Using your Google Chrome browser, you can press on F12 on your keyboard to bring up Web Developer toolbar here. Here we can say, okay, let's go and further analyze this URL. We can press on Network and refresh the page itself to see, what's the page rendering is like. And we can scroll to the top, and here we can press on the URL itself. Then there is all these codes here, so you don't have to worry about this. What's important to keep an eye on is this status code 200. That means everything's okay right this moment. Now, once you work that out, then you're in a better standing at this moment. Also, if you're using caching plugins or you have a different setup, perhaps you're not using WordPress, you're using Magento or static HTML, using Google Chrome browser, you can press on the refresh as in reload icon. You can press on it and then say empty cache and hard reload. Let's actually do that. We're still looking at network tab here. What we've done is we've eliminated seeing a web page, the cached version. Makes sense? Because I've just cleared the cache in Google Chrome browser. Now I am actually seeing the URL and the code is still 200. Okay. So right now we can go back to Google Search Console and say, why? Why is Google having problems with this URL? Because we are not having problems. If we're not having problems, Googlebot shouldn't have problems either. At this moment, what we need to do is look at the date ranges. As we can see, this is actually recent. 4 days ago, Google could not fetch this URL. So therefore, the next step in fixing is press on Inspect URL. Here we have further insights as to what's going on. But remember what we're seeing. We're seeing data that's coming from 4 or 5 days ago. And we have an option to test live URL. But we've already done this here. Makes sense? So let's go and do that in Search Console as well. To test the live URL. URL as of this moment. Because it could be the case, depending on the website, Google has crawled it, but perhaps your web server was being rebooted. Or perhaps there was a maintenance being performed on your web server. Well, if that's the case, URL is having crawl issues can actually show up. Okay? So let's continue waiting. It takes a bit of time, but nonetheless, testing live URL is much better at this moment for us because we want to see what Google is doing, because we've done our manual analysis here. Now, the live test is showing us all these green check boxes, right? But if we leave it at that, that wouldn't be good enough for you. So at this moment, URL can be indexed. That's what Google is saying. Okay, but let's imagine you don't have all the green boxes and you're having this problem. So let's inspect the URL because I'm going to show you a couple of important things to look at. First thing, here it says URL is not on Google index. That means this page is not even in Google's index. Now, I get many comments saying, okay, you know what, I've got a website, but Google is not indexing certain pages. There is a couple of quick methods for you to get the web page indexed. One is share the URL on your own social profiles, because when you share the link, Google will follow and come to your web page and index. Also, if you've already done that and you're scratching your head thinking, well, why is Google not indexing the page? That means the quality of your page is not good enough for Google to index. That means you need to redo your content. There is only 2 ways that Google will not index a page. There is no other reason. So therefore, if you want a page to be indexed in Google, instead of trying to force Google using request indexing, you should instead ask yourself, is the page useful, original, does it serve the purpose of the keyword you're targeting, and also make sure the content is unique and it's optimized. And then share a link on an external social profile that you have. Let Google index it naturally, because that's much smarter to have to do. Also here it's saying that particular URL is in perhaps sitemap. For typical WordPress, it's actually smart to submit the post and page instead of the parent sitemap. That means this URL is in the sitemap. That's why Search Console is complaining, saying you told us, sorry, it's in the page. Here it said in the page sitemap. So Google has found that link from here. And thus Search Console complains, saying you told us there is a page on your website, but we cannot fetch the page because there is crawl anomaly. Here, what's also important is this referring page. That means this is the page that Google has followed. This page has referred Google to this different URL. As we can see, it's different. Now, at this moment, looking at this, for my particular valued client, this URL is actually not there. It's been redirected. Makes sense? So at that moment, that gives me a clue as to say, somehow Google has seen this here somewhere, whether it's on the website itself, whether it's on an external site. Google has followed the link coming from this URL. Google has visited this URL and there was 301 redirection. At this moment, I need to check the redirection rules for this website, if I have any. Now, you can actually test that. Through cPanel, you have redirection rules. Here we have redirects. So through cPanel, you can analyze redirection. As we can see, I may have some other redirection rules happening here, but in this particular case, it doesn't seem like I do. Okay, so then next place that the redirection could occur is through File Manager, public_HTML, and here you have .htxs file. This is a dot file, that means it's hidden. You need to press on Settings if you can't see it and enable Show Hidden Files. And then you can right click. First rule to fix any problems on a website is make backups. Let's download that. Now I am confident analyzing, editing this particular file. Within this, I can grab everything. I can actually cut it, go back to my local computer, paste it. Now I can further analyze any links happening, any links to do with the referring URL. So let's copy this URL extension and search this document, and it's not there. Let's do this one, and yes, there is a link in here. Now that proves positive to me right this moment. It's to do with my own setup, so to speak, but there is nothing to worry about. Makes sense for me because it's redirecting. But take a look at what's redirecting. HTTP version. So now that opens up another can of worm, as to say to myself, okay, have I got HTTPS rules and redirection occurring correctly? In this setup, I know that I have. So now I can say, okay, who crawled? Did Googlebot smartphone crawl? You may, well, in 2020, it's mobile first index, so everything is about Googlebot smartphone. Crawl anomaly tells me that somehow when Google requested this URL here with HTTP version, it just couldn't crawl the URL in question here. We've done the network check, so next we can go and test our Robots.txt file to say to ourselves, are there any rules within this document that blocks Google, or it blocks certain folders that the URL is within. Now, as you can see, Search Console and fixing certain issues can be quite complex. But when we look at submitted URL has crawl issue, that's not a huge problem if it's just 1-2 URLs and as we can see, many days it didn't have problem, and it had a problem perhaps for a week. Perhaps leaving this problem for 1 week may actually fix itself like it has for this web property. Make sense? So what I'm trying to tell you is there are many ways to fix this problem. As long as you understand to check the URL from the front end, pressing F12 on your keyboard, hard reload the page itself, empty the cache, and then request it. What you want is you want to be able to find status code 200. If that's okay, you can basically say to yourself, that's great, because Search Console should pick that up as well, because everything is okay. And then you can inspect the URL in question, test Robots.txt blocking rules. This is the old version, and you can actually test it to see if something is disallowed. That means, let's imagine I've disallowed this particular folder. I've said to Search Console, through Robots.txt file, you are disallowed to browse this folder. And then, as we can see, it should give us that red warning saying, okay, the reason we can't crawl this particular URL is because Robots.txt rules is blocking us. Make sense? So therefore, you just need to remove that. But through Search Console, that's just for testing purposes. The real file resides on your web server. So you can download that. That's a good habit to have. And then right click, edit. If Search Console has shown you any red warning messages for the URL you're inspecting. If it has, then simply you would remove whatever the line Search Console is showing you. Okay, so you're inspecting the URL. When you press on that, you kind of see the bigger picture as to what referring page Google has seen. Double checking HTTP version, because if it's to do with HTTPS, then it could be the way you have set up HTTPS on your server. And then you check the redirection rules if they are in .htxs file, or if they are on your web hosting account, because through it you can see redirection rules happening here. And then triple check what's being redirected and so on. Okay, so there are many different scenarios. Crawl anomaly, that means it could, crawl anomaly is Google tried to crawl it, and we've actually done that. So when we use this network tab, we're actually mimicking that. Make sense? So therefore, when Google has visited this URL, just like the way network tab is happening. And also, while here, let me show you. Here, there is something in red color here. Okay, so you may need to double check anything that's in red color, because certain scripts may make the page load, and thus if that script is not found by Google, the page cannot be crawled perhaps. Okay, so when you're analyzing things from the network tab in Google Chrome browser, or Internet Explorer has that as well, first thing, look at the URL in question, status code 200. If it's different, then you know the page itself right now is having problems. And if that's the case, then it's to do with your setup. And if you're really unsure, you may need to contact your web hosting service provider and interact with them saying, okay, my pages do not load. Can you enlighten us as to why that is? Because it could, might as well to do with your web server, the way it's set up and so on. Because there is many different ways to have a web page to load. So as you can see, I'm showing you many different scenarios and options. And I am more than confident that when you follow these insights, you will fix submitted URL has scroll issue error in Search Console, because this is how it's done. Remember, Rank Your YouTube channel has more Search Console related videos. I thank you very much for learning with me. If you benefited from this video session, please share it and give it a like, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.